not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago. It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
You're quoted as having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board that you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively, and therefore they will suffer some collective It's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here. It's true. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated. It's true. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate. That's true.
You're quoted as having said when an airliner crashed with a number of white people on board that you were glad it happened.
The white race in this country collectively are guilty of these crimes that our people are suffering from collectively, and therefore they will suffer some collective disaster, collective grief. And when that plane crashed in France with 130 white people off,
Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother forsake me, woman them hurt me. Mercy, mercy, Lord have mercy.
Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide.
Mercy, mercy, the wicked have no mercy. So I gotta stay with a blicker, niggas be thirsty. Quicker than the flick of a picture, niggas could murk me. Catch you with your dick in these bitches and do you dirty. But I'm God body, I put that shit on the jersey. No weapon formed against me shall hurt me. Go to war on your turf, I put you under the surface. Mac 10s, Mac 11s, call a nigga Bernie. Open up the chest of a nigga, them bitches burning. Living by the scripture that's written in this discernment. I see that window closing, can't be playing in the curtains. I ain't playing like the circus, I'm a man with a purpose. Can't be laying with the serpents, keep the squares out your circle. You ain't standing on your word, what kind of man are you? X you out, cross you over, I had to sham guide you. Can't stop a nigga drive the beat, they can't guard you. Hell have no fury compared to what God do. I'm a whole gangster, my nigga not partial. 38 special, this nigga think he's special. I go ahead to part you, I ain't finna argue. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Run, pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that city blow. Run, pump, 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 pump. Pull up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Look. Yeah, what I say? I told you they ain't got no love for you, they ain't come on with you. What I say? I told you there was no real niggas, man, you gotta deal with them. What I say? I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say? I told you take care of your fam, stand on your square, be a man. What I say? I told you they ain't got no love for you, they ain't come on with you. What I say? I told you there wasn't no real niggas, now you gotta deal with it. What I say? I told you she she ain't got no love for you. She don't really fuck with you. What I say, I told you take care of your fam. Stand on your square, be a man. A cold world, I know. Time moves fast when you tryna chase a bag, that's facts. At last, niggas finally see your check. Haters wanna knock you off your apex. They mad, cause your bitch ain't loyal. Broke the code, put a price on her soul. Get a hold of your life. You could blow overnight, or you could fuck it all and lose control. Suicide is a suicide, yeah. It's a big difference between you and I. And I'm super straight. They say you 6 million ways to die. Choose your fate. I ain't gonna lose the case. Prove your worth, nigga. Move your weight. Keep your nose clean for you lose your face. What up your face value? We don't know your face. I step up in this bitch like I own the place. I pay close attention to their tone and pace. Is he really built? Will he fold a break? Life is guns and butter, baby boy, you straight. And I got it in either hand, I mean I hold your fate. Never know, it could be your time to go today. Who knows, a nigga like me might show you the way. Seal his fate with a kiss from a rose on the grave. I stand on anything I say, what I say. What I say, I told you they ain't got no love for you, they ain't come on with you. What I say, I told you there was no real niggas, now you gotta deal with them. What I say, I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say, I told you take care of your fam, stand on your square, be a man. What I say, I told you they ain't got no love for you, they ain't come on with you. What I say, I told you there was no real niggas, now you gotta deal with them. What I say, I told you she ain't got no love for you, she don't really fuck with you. What I say, I told you take care of your fam, stand on your square, be a man. My nigga Low just came home from doing 8, fucking with the wrong niggas in the wrong place. The one you call ace, that be all up in your face. Next minute fuck around, help the law build your case. In this rap run, you gotta be a dog in this race. Loyalty or death, man, that's all that it takes. I thought all the way niggas fall by the race. I see we was never good, we was all for the ranks. And furthermore, keys open doors. I can never sit and watch my niggas jump overboard.
What's good, what's good, what's good, what's good, what's cracking? Shalom, shalom, right? I know you see the title. You know. So, yeah, we're going to get into it. We're going to get right into it. You know, yeah, a loss of God in the land. But for his people, we have a plan. Yeah, you know, of course, before we get started, giving all praises to the Most High God, Yahweh, and we do so in his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, who the world probably might recognize as Jesus Christ. So, yeah, we're going to get right into it, right? So, yeah. So yeah, we're gonna start with the book of Amos, right? Get right into it. So yeah, you know, cause you know, the reason why we title it as such, you know, for various reasons, you know, cause I mean, it's gonna come upon a time too where, you know, the knowledge that the Most High God is, you know, putting forth on the earth, you know, like how it tells us in the book of Daniel, you know, in those days the wisdom will increase. But then it's going to come to, you know, the time where he's going to have to, you know, put his people up and protect them because the stuff that's going on. So then, it's, you know, so you have to get it while the getting is good because, you know, it might be upon a time where those teachers and prophets that, you know, was teaching, you know, they ain't out there no more, right? And, you know, then people are going to be looking for it because in that day, it's going to be all hell breaking loose and they're going to want to know something. They're going to want to get some type of understanding, some type of, message, some type of word to, help them get through what they see going on in the world, as, you know, these times progress, right? So, these are the future prophecies and stuff, right? So yeah, we're gonna get right into it. Let's start at Amos, but let's start at verse 4. So Amos chapter 8, verse 4. And it says, "Hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even make the poor of the land to fail." So and so yeah, and this, going towards, our leaders of our community, the so-called leaders of our people, the people that's supposed to be in charge of us and protecting our well-being. And oftentimes we have the rich that, take advantage of the poor. That's how the rich stay rich, because they continually, robbing from the poor. And it says, boom, boom, boom. Let's jump down to let's jump down to verse 9. Let's jump up to verse 9. Then it says, "And it shall come to pass in the day, said the Lord God, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day." So now this talking about, the wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the people. And, collectively as a people, we had lost our heritage, our culture, our identity. That's why we're, have these, European names and etc. Right? So it says, "It shall come to pass in that day, said the Lord God, I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in the clear day." So again, this is talking about, our, wisdom and understanding of who we are as a people being stricken and taken away from us. And we know how that happened through, colonialism and slavery and all and so forth, right? And how the various methods on how they, stripped us of our identity. Then it says, "And that's what caused the sun and the moon to be darkened," because again, the sun and the moon represent knowledge and wisdom. So our knowledge and wisdom as a people, who we are, was taken from us, right? So then it says, "And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and your songs into lamentation." And that's, is important too, because a lot of times we be calling ourselves getting together, having, little functions and stuff, right? And like the little old saying that used to be when I was, growing up, they used to say, "Man, you can't, black people can't have too many black people together. It's gonna be a problem," right? And so, and oftentimes they do be problems. A lot of times it be like, whether it's fighting, arguing, or somebody get unalive, and not to say that it'd be, not those occasions that often, that sometimes happen where things be peaceful, but we talking about, those occasions where, you be trying to have a birthday party, you be throwing this type of function, then it's always somebody that mess it up for everybody. And it says, "I would turn your feast into mourning, and your songs into lamentation." So, and because we're in this society, living in America, we celebrating, their holidays, their feast days. A lot of, we suffer from it. Rather we can't pay our bills the next month because we done spent all our money on Christmas presents and all that stuff, and whatever the case may be, or you probably go to jail because you done robbed and stuck somebody up for some holiday money, right? Or or you know, maybe somebody done flip and lost their sanity and decide to unalive everybody in the house, right? So, oftentimes, things happen when we celebrate these holidays, when we just supposedly be trying to have a good time. But gotta understand that we're celebrating things that we ought not to celebrate. And then when violence or the unexpected happen, we have to learn to expect these things when we're doing things contrary to what God tells us to do, because He tells us, "I will turn your feast into mourning and your song into lamentation." So that's why a lot of times people be trying to get together and have a good time, but it's something, Then it says, "And I will bring up sackcloth upon the loins and baldness on every head, and I would make it as the morning only I would make the morning of the only sun, the end thereof, as a better day." Right? So, and that's what a lot of our people end up, going through a lot of hardship and heartache, and what it says, "I will bring up sackcloth upon the loins and baldness upon every head, and I would make it as the morning of the only sun." So, saying that, times and stuff is going to be so hard for us, because we don't fall into idol worship by following these different holidays and so forth, and, and not, keeping what God tell us to keep. And certain things and tragedies and stuff that take place, He said it's going to be just like if you lost your only child, when you going through these certain things. And oftentimes people get unalive at these events that we end up doing, for ourselves, right? And it says, "Therefore as the bitter day." So now, and it says, verse 11, "And behold, the day come, said the Lord, I will send a famine in the land." So God said, I'm going to send a famine in the land, right? This thirst, this hunger. It says, not a famine of bread, nor a thirst for water, but of hearing of the words of the Lord. So it's going to come upon a time where He's going to send a famine, and of the word of the Lord. And and living in the age of technology, is various ways that we can see how that can transpire. They can, do simple as a internet ban. They can censor the internet like they do in China and Korea. They can, start arresting people that, talk a certain type of way. They already, I was seeing something, it was this, somebody I was looking at, one of these little political pundits, and they were speaking about how the Keith, the Secretary of War, and a couple of the war generals and stuff, how they were trying to put like a little holy spin on this war to make it seem like they're, fighting for righteousness. It's like some type of holy war, right? And so it's like, so you see how these people is, trying to, formulate and try to, convince the people and make things, hold on, let me just read this one more time. It says, "Behold, the days come, said the Lord, I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread, nor thirst, or water, but the hearing of the words of the Lord." And so a lot of people is going to be, like I said, it's going to be a time where people is going to be looking. And then as they're looking, they're not going to be able to find it because, whether it's censorship, for whatever reason, and because of the talk that these generals and politicians and speaking of, Then you have some people thinking about, maybe the stuff in the Bible is not so cool. Maybe we should, you know, ban this stuff, because if these people are going to war and trying to, have some type of revised Christian crusade, maybe, so we can see different arguments that's being made and how this can come about. And it came about in the past. It happened before, right? In theology, they call it the years, the 1,000 years that God didn't speak or something like that, right? That's what they call it. But that's what they call it. But in reality, you got this book right here called the Apocrypha. But that's neither here or there. But that's what they call it, because it wasn't no prophets on the scene like that, But anyway, so it says, and they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of the Lord, and shall not find it. So again, people is going to be looking and searching for the words of the Lord, and they would not be able to find it because, it could, like I said, for various reasons. It could be censorship. It could be, the Most High God is, put his people up, because he, see the danger that's about to come. It could be a lot of, various reasons. But the point is, this prophecy is going to come to pass. It's Isaiah 5. Let's start at hold up. Is it this one? Let's go to, matter of fact, we're coming back. Let's go to Psalms real quick. Psalm 74 and 9. So Psalm 74 and 9 says, we see not our signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that know how long. So again, as war and all this crazy stuff, ramp up, throughout the earth, and definitely here, people is gonna, start, their faith is gonna start to waver. Then they're gonna be looking for, because the preacher ain't gonna be able to tell you nothing, because, he doesn't spend, every Sunday gassing you up and taking your money, making you think everything is cool. Your blessing is right around the corner. Not actually telling you what's going on in the world and how it plays out scripturally, because he only concerned about if he can make you feel good enough to give him some money, right? And it say, we see not our signs. There's no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that know how. Right? And that's what people is going to be looking for. They're going to be looking for somebody that can help them navigate through this craziness that they seeing on the news or in the world, or what's going on. And they're going to say, and there is neither is there among us any that know how long. So they're gonna be like, dang, how long is this gonna last for? How long we gonna? Because some people might give up if they think it's this stuff is going on too long, right? So people, they want to get some answers, and they're gonna be looking for answers, and they're not gonna be able to find it, because it says, behold, the days come, said the Lord, I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread nor thirst for water, but of hearing of the word of the Lord. And they shall wander from the sea to sea, from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro and seek the word of the Lord and shall not find it, right? So, and that's what's coming to this place, rather, for, and it can happen in many different ways, right? Because as these prophecies is unfolding, we see, because like the Bible talks about nations being brought down into the Middle East, into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, right? We knew that the Bible said that. We read it all the time. We prophesy about it, right? But we didn't know that how it's actually going to play out. Like Donald Trump is going to start a war with everybody, then, pull out in the last minute and leave those other countries there to still fight. That's just like, we know these people that will start a fight. Then soon the fight get going, they in the back somewhere watching it, or they'll hit somebody, and then, then they'll hit the person. Then when the person get ready to fight them, then they're, whoever they with, their friends, whatever, will jump the guy. Then they'll just be sitting back, after they done got the whole fight started, right? And got everybody fighting. And then you the one just sitting down being cool, right? So that's basically what they're doing there. They went over there, blew up a whole bunch of stuff, told everybody to come on, help us blow up some stuff. And then they're like, all right, fine. Well, we ain't going to help you, but we going to help ourselves. But we ain't helping you, but we going down there. Then now they become a target. It's all crazy. So that's just, how it, that's what's going on. But yeah, where was that? 2nd Ezra 5, and let's start at 8. So 2nd Ezra 5 and 8, and it says, there shall be confusion also in many places, and there shall be fire, shall be aught sent out against the wild beasts, shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. So it's talking about, as war continue, certain places become uninhabitable, and animals and stuff start to leave their natural habitat and start showing up in residential areas. I seen a video the other day. It was a lion sleeping inside of a mattress store, right? And you're going to start seeing a lot more wild animals leaving from where they're supposed to be at and being in residential areas because of the environment and, stuff that's taking place, whether it's pollution or, other man-made devices, that's causing these animals to leave from their natural resting place, right? It's get it over here. And it say, okay, hold on. I read it in the it says 2nd Ezra 5 and 7. When read it in the NLT, and it says, the Dead Sea shall cast up fish, because once the water get polluted, the fish in the water is going to start to die, right? And then it says, the Dead Sea shall cast up fish, and one whom many do not know will speak in a voice at night, and everyone will hear it. So again, that's called invasion. That's when, just think about Nazi Germany in the 40s and stuff, when those people were living in those ghettos and stuff, and they hear the little, night, hear that coming over the loudspeakers, scared the mess out of them, because some of them didn't speak the language, right? And so, and they hear that in the dead middle of the night, and they coming to do damage and kidnap and do all types of harm to people. That's a frightening thing. And same thing over there, those countries over there, in the Middle East and all that, you know, a lot of those European countries is coming down. You know, they all speak different languages. So then they giving out a warning. Okay, we're gonna bomb raid this area. So they come on a loudspeaker speaking in their language, right? And the natives don't understand that, right? And it says, and one who do not know, and one whom many do not know will speak a voice in the night, and everyone will hear it. Then it says, verse 8, and it says, chaos will spread over many places. Fire will often break out. Wild animals will leave their fields, and women will give birth to monsters. And that's what happens, you know, because like if we remember too, like, you know, and especially too in this day and age, you know, like on the flip side, you know, because like I said, like a lot of these, you know, single parent homes and stuff, a lot of these, you know, raising up these monstrous children, right, out here unaliving everybody, having people scared to walk down the street, right, you know, and so, and it says in those days, women will give birth, you know, to in their monstrous children. Then also too on the flip side, dealing with war and understanding, you know, chemical warfare, how that stuff goes down. Like even with Hiroshima, Nagasaki, when they bombed that place, like for I think like what 60 something years after, you know, nice, you know, several decades, you know, Japan had a nasty low birth rate, and a lot of the children was being born deformed and, you know, with a lot of many different deformities, right? And because of the radiation, and this was after they, you know, many years after they, you know, dropped the bomb. So, like I said, so it says, there should be confusion in many places, and fire should be out and sent out again, and the wild beasts should change their places, and menstruous women should bring forth monsters. And the salt water should be found in the sweet. So then, you know, now salt water is mixing with fresh water. You know, that's not usually supposed to happen. You know, salt water is where salt water is, fresh water is where fresh water is. But because of the climate and environment and stuff that they're doing, it's causing these things to lose, you know, their natural habitat and be places where they're not supposed to be, right? And it says, salt water should be found in sweet, and all friends should destroy one another. It says, and all friends should destroy one another. So, and that's the thing. So it's coming because, you know, people that you think you was cool with because you went to school with, in that day, they going to be hungry. And they going to need to feed their family. And they going to think about them more than you, right? And it says, and all friends shall destroy one another, and then shall wit hide itself, and understanding withdraw itself into the secret chambers. So people's going to be losing their mind, going crazy in that day, because there's going to be a lack of knowledge, a lack of wisdom, a lack of understanding in that day. They're not going to know what to do. They're going to be going for what they know. They're going to be resorting back to their animal instincts of survival, right? And that's why God says our wisdom and knowledge will be our stability in these times, right? That's what's going to keep us safe, our knowledge and understanding. But in that day, these people is going to be, you know, it's going to be crazy because a lot of people is not going to have the understanding. That's why, you know, we reading these prophecies and studying them so we can have the understanding and don't be, unprepared. And it says, and shall be sought of many, and yet not found. So many people is going to be trying to find wisdom and understanding and get what's going on in that day. And even now, people are, that's why a lot of people are waking up to the truth and understanding, because people are searching and trying to understand what is going on in this world. Why is this place so crazy? Why is this happening? Right? And so they're looking for the answers. And it says, and shall be sought of many, and yet not be found. Then shall the unrighteous and the inconsistency be multiplied upon the earth. Right? And then it says, so then evil is going to multiply, right? A lot of wickedness and stuff is going to take place because, people is going to be godless, right? Because they're going to be looking at the hell and carnage that's taking place on the planet. They can be like, well, shoot, might as well go for what you know. This anarchy out here. And it says, one land also shall ask another, and say, is there righteous that make a man righteous going through these? So then, you're gonna be traveling. Some people gonna be going from state to state, country to country, land to land, looking for a man of God to teach them and help them and to survive in that day when things is going awry. And it says, one land also shall ask another, and say, is righteousness that maketh a man right gone through thee? So, and they gonna be like, man, how is it over there? Y'all got anybody righteous over there? Y'all got somebody that's helping the people and putting right, proper, godly structure back over there? Because it's jacked up over here. I don't know. We looking, because we need some type of guidance, because this is crazy, right? And that's what people is going to be looking for. It says, at the same time shall men hope, but nothing obtain. Because people are still going to be wicked and doing their own little thing. Because like it tells us in Revelation that even after these plagues start to hit America and, Mystery Babylon, people are still not going to repent. They're still not going to give God the glory. They're still going to keep doing what they're going to do, right? And it says, in the same time shall man hope, but nothing obtain. They shall labor, but their ways shall not prosper. Right? So that's what's going on in the world, right? And let's get hold up. All right, let's go to Micah. Let's go to Micah, and let's start. Yeah, we can start. Let's start at 5. Matter of fact, let's start at 5. So Micah 4 and 5, and it says, "For all the people will walk, everyone in the name of his God," and that's what people is doing today. People are walking in the name of their God. And because they're definitely not following the God of this book. And all these nations have their own God. And the Bible tells us that, can a nation change their God? And the answer is no. Because people, they spiritually is going to follow what they follow. Right? And it says, "For the people will walk, everyone in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of our God forever and forever." So again, because like we said, paraphrase of Revelation, how even when God is hitting this place with plagues, people are still not going to repent. They're still not going to give God the glory. But since we understand what's going on, right? And it says, and we will walk in the name of God, and we will not walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever, right? And, you know, that's what's going on, because a lot of people, they think they following the God of this book, but like I said, if you following any one of these major religions, you're not following the God of this book. You know, it's sad to tell you, but not really. But you're not following the God of this book. Oopsie. What's this? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, yeah, boom, boom. Okay, now right here we don't need that one. Boom, boom, boom. So, and it says, just keep reading it up. It says, in that day the Lord will assemble her that halted, and I will gather her that is driven out, and her that I have afflicted. Right. So it's Matthew 25 and 31. It says, the Son of Man should come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him. It says, and all the holy angels with him. Then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations. Right? So all the nations will be gathered, everybody. And it says, and he shall separate them one from another, as a sheep divide his sheep from his goats. So all the nations are going to be gathered, and Christ is going to separate his people from amongst those people, right? Then it says, for all people walk one, everyone walk in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of our God forever and ever. Because like I said, those other nations, they have gods that they worship, right? And that they follow. And it says, in the day that the Lord God assembled her and halted, I will gather her and divide it and drive out her that I have afflicted. I will, what it says, and I will make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off a strong nation. So he's going to gather his people that was once subjugated and discriminated and, you know, almost eviscerated and subjugated in these different nations. And he's going to bring us back. And it says it's going to make us a great nation. And then it says, and the Lord will reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. Right? So that's the plan. He's going to reign over his people from henceforth, even forever, right? Let's get this real quick. So it's at Revelation 5 and 9. It says, and they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seal thereof. So, you know, so this is Christ opening up the seals and, you know, and getting things cracking in motion of these future events that's going to, you know, take place on the earth. Then it says, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred. So like we just read, how he's going to take us out of every nation. He's going to take the sheep from the goats. And it says, has redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation. So he's going to take his people and gather us from all these other nations, right? And then it says, and has made us unto our God kings and priests. So that's where we're going to be, kings and priests on this earth, right? Then it says, and we shall reign on the earth, right? That's God's promise to his people, the real people, the Black, Hispanic, and Native American, right? That's what's going on here. Then it says, back over here, then it says, and I would make her that halted a remnant, and her that was cast far off, strong nation, and the Lord shall reign over them, and the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion henceforth forever and ever. Right? And it says, and thou tower, hold up, let's get this real quick. So let's read this real quick. So it says, and thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to thee, come to the daughter of Jerusalem. Right? So let's read this real quick. It says, but if ye turn unto me and keep my commandments, and this is Nehemiah 1:9. But if ye turn unto me and keep my commandments and do them, though there were of you cast out to the uttermost parts of heaven, yet I will gather them from hence, and I will bring them into a place that I have chosen to set my name there. Right? So God is going to redeem his people no matter where we're scattered to, and we're going to bring us back to the place where he set his name, and that place is called Jerusalem, right up, in that place where they call Israel, right? Then it says, let's get Revelation 11 real quick. Revelation 11:14 says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. So meaning the first war, second world war, that stuff happened. This coming war is coming quickly. So all these prophecies that were being told, all this stuff is gonna happen, right? And it's coming quickly. Let's get. Let me see. I want to. Let's get Revelation 20 real quick. Revelation 20:6. And it says, blessed and holy is he that has part in the first resurrection. Right? So let's read this again. So it says, and thou, O tower of the flock, stronghold, the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall come even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem. So meaning those that stood firm with Christ from the get-go, from the start, even if they dead and gone, passed away, when the kingdom is set up, they're going to get that first dominion. They're going to get that first 1,000-year reign to reign with Christ, right? They're going to get that first, unadulterated millennium reign with Christ for that 1,000 years, right? And then the rest that, didn't, make it. Hold on, so I'll get real quick. I don't know why I didn't know that. Who that now? So yeah, so like it. So yeah, so that 1,000 reign, a 1,000-year reign will go to the, the ones that, stood firm. The 144,000 and the others that stood firm with the Most High and the Lord, to the end. They're gonna get the gift of reigning with Christ, the first go around, and seeing all of this destruction that we're reading and God's power and majesty and all these prophecies play out. They're gonna get a chance to see that, right? And rule the planet and be the rulers and all that stuff, right? And then on the second go around, you got the others that didn't quite come along quite, as they should. So I don't want to. Alright, I guess I can try to explain it real quick. So of course, regeneration. Israelites, when you die, your spirit go back to the Father, and then, you get judged, and then in your next life, when that newborn baby is born, that's baby's about to live out whatever judgment, whatever blessing that God, said is going to happen. So then they live their life, right? So now the Israelites that, died, that's probably not as righteous, or whatever, that didn't make the first cut, and then they probably died on this side, and so when Christ do come back, after that 1,000 years reign, then they come back in that, after that 1,000-year reign, they get judged. Then some of them, will be able to, enter into the kingdom. Then those that, then they get cast into the lake of fire also, right? But all Israel, well, like I said, so they get cast into, I'm going to leave it like that. They get cast into the fire. So that's what it means by, it says, even the first dominion, the kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem, right? And it says, boom, 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 over here, Revelation 20:6, blessed and holy is he that have part in the first resurrection. On such the second death have no power, but shall be priests of God and of Christ, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. So like we just said, so that 1,000-year reign goes to the, those that endure to the end, till Christ come back, whether it's through death or till you see him come back and touch down on earth, right? And so, like I said, so you got those people that walk with Christ, and that's going to get that first dominion and rulership. And the rest of the Israelites is just, going to be civilians. Well, we're still going to be powered. We're still going to be having power over the other nations, because we're still going to be a nation of kings and priests, right? And so then it says, boom, boom, boom. It says, now why doest thou cry out loud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perish? For things have taken thee as worm in travail, right? And that's what, and a lot of times too, that's what happened, since, we've been to this place, it's like we have no counselor, we have no, no king, nobody to lead us and stuff like that, right? Because, the lack of leadership from the people that's supposed to be looking out for the well-being of us, who we look at to be the ones that look out for us. It's Luke 21 and 21 real quick. And it says, Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains, and let them which are in the midst of it depart out, and let not them that are in the countries enter thereinto. So, when all hell is breaking loose, we're gonna have to, get up out of there and find, shelter, right? Because in that day it's gonna be all hell breaking loose, and when you see the warning signs, you see certain things happening, you gotta get up out of town. Let's get this real quick. So Micah 2:12 says this: I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all thee, and I will surely gather a remnant of Israel. I will put them together as sheep of Basra, as a flock in the midst of their fold. So God said, I'm going to gather all of y'all together, right? And because again, he's going to gather us together, because he's going to bring us back into the wilderness, again, because we're going to go to what we call the second Exodus. Just like the first Exodus, he took us all out of Egypt and brought us into the wilderness. It says, I will surely gather the remnant of Israel, and I will put them together as sheep of Basra, as a flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason, and multitude of men. It says the breaker is come up before them. So we're going to make great noise, because we're going to see Christ come back. And he's going to come back with the millions. He's going to come back, and we're going to see him come back. We're going to be cheerful, because we're going to know what it says. The breaker is come before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate. So the breaker is coming. He's coming to free us from this land of captivity, right? That some of us done, fell in love with so much that we don't want to leave. But he's coming. That's why the Bible calls him the breaker. He's coming to kick in the door, waving a fofo, right? And it says, the breaker is come before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate, and they're gone out by it, and their king has passed before them. And who is our king? The Mashiach Yahweh Shai, who the world calls Jesus Christ. He's going to pass before us, meaning he's going to lead us out of this place. He's going to take us out, right? And he's going to take us up out of here. It says, and have passed through the gate, and are gone out by their king, and gone out, and their king passed before them, and the Lord on the head the Lord the head of them. So like I said, so he's going to lead us out, just like how Moses led us out of Egypt. Christ is going to take us out, and under the power of the Most High God Yahweh, right? The same way how Moses took us out of Egypt under the power of the Most High God Yahweh, right? So right here, let's go to Micah 4:10. Then it says, be in pain and labor to bring forth, O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail. For now shall thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field. And that's what happened. We went forth out of the city, because when Jerusalem got, taken over, we ran out of the city into the field. What is the field? Metaphorically speaking, of Africa, right? Because if you understand that the west coast of Africa was, there's no archaeology before we came over there, right? There's no archaeology that goes back before 70 AD, right? On the west coast of Africa, right? So, and that's why it's called the field. It was undeveloped, right? The Sahara Desert, was very tough to cross. That wasn't a thing that people were just going around doing, crossing the Sahara Desert. We traveled through the north, country of Africa, and eventually made our way to the west, right? And it says, thou go forth out of the city, and thou shalt dwell in the field, and thou shalt even go into Babylon. So after we made it to the west coast of Africa, what happened? We went into Babylon, right? Which is America, right? Because the Bible refers to America as Mystery Babylon, the daughter of Babylon. Thou shalt go into Babylon. There thou shalt be delivered. So that's where we're going to be delivered when the Mashiach Yahweh Shai comes back and take us out. Like we just read over here. It says, the breaker is come up before them. They have broken up, and they have passed through the gates. Meaning we're going to break through these gates, these, these mental chains that America has on us, right? And it says, they is break through the gates and are gone out by their king. Gone out by it, and their king passed before them. Meaning Christ is going to lead us up out of here, and the Lord on the top, on the head of, and the Lord is the head of them, right? So that's what's going on. And it says, shall go even into Babylon, and there shall thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thy enemies. So that's what God is going to do to the real Israelites, right? Redeem them from the hands of their enemy. Those people with the little curly stuff hanging on the side and little coasters sitting on top, they don't look like they need to be redeemed from their enemies. They're over there making enemies, right? They're over there creating enemies. They're not, under attack. They're on offense over there, right? They've never been on defense. That's good. Let's get Revelation 12 real quick. And it said, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. So this is talking about Israel, because again, 70 AD happened. We got kicked out of Jerusalem. We got expelled. We ran into Northern Africa, West Coast Africa, Europe, all these different places we got scattered to, predominantly into Africa. Then it says, and the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and a half from the face of the serpent. So when we got to the west coast of Africa, we was there, and we built mighty civilizations over there, great civilizations. We were, doing a lot of, king stuff over there, right? Mansa Musa and everybody, right? We're doing things, right? And so we were able to, what it says, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and a half of a time from the place of the serpent. So, when we was over there for, those nice little 1,000-year little thing, getting it in, then they came in and messed with us. It says, and the serpent cast out his mouth of water as a flood after the woman. So it's talking about how they came and rushed in at us. Because, like, if you see, watch how flood water come in, it just rush in from every direction. So it says, the serpent cast out his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And that's what happened. So we eventually got taken into slavery, because they came every which way, every direction after us, right? And then eventually took us, into slavery, right? Then it says over here, But it says, and there shall thou be delivered, and there shall the Lord redeem thee from the hands of thy enemies. Right? So Isaiah 14 real quick. Isaiah 14 and 1. And it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land. Like we're reading. It said he's going to take us and put us back in our own land. Set them in their own land. And there the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. So these other nations are going to be joined with us, and they're going to cleave to us. They're going to need us in that day. Right? And it says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and for handmaids. And they shall take them captive, who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Right? That's the game plan. Right? Because it says, there the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thy enemies. And right here it says, and they shall take them captive, who captives they were, and they will rule over their oppressors. Right? That's called justice, right? In case you don't know. And let's get this. Revelation 17. And it say, upon her head was the name Mystery Babylon. Because that's what this place called, Mystery Babylon. This place, America, in the Bible is prophetically known as Mystery Babylon, the daughter of Babylon. Mystery Babylon, the great mother of harlots, an abomination of the earth. Right? That's what God called this place, the abomination of the earth, because the wickedness and the things that it propagate and push. Right? Right? And it says, and I saw a woman drunken with the blood of the saints. And how was this place drunken with the blood of the saints? Because through slavery, through their, conquest of the Native Americans, right? And through their oppression and other, means, right? Their unjustly killing of us, right? We know the history. We know the history that they have done to us, right? And it says, I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Because John the Revelator is looking like, dang, these people are very vicious, very violent, very, sociopathic. Like, and he couldn't do nothing but just stare, like wow, like at shock and awe, at the limits, or no limits, should we say, at the the reach and the things that these people are willing to do, right? So back over here. So it says, verse 11, Micah 4:11, and now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eyes look upon Zion. And that's what how they treat us. They look at us as easy victims, easy prey, to take advantage of. They can sell us anything, they can treat us any type of way, and it says, now many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. And that's what they're going to do. They're going to, have no problem using us as, the scapegoat and releasing their frustration on us, right? They've been doing it ever since. Whenever they have a problem, we always have been their punching bag. This 2 Ezra 13:5, real quick. And it say, boom. Wait, no, we don't need. Let's get, matter of fact, let's get Revelation real quick. So it says, and now many, it says, and now also many nations are gathered against thee, that say, let her be defiled, and let our eye look upon Zion. So too, in that day, after, the Most High God, bring us into the wilderness and, gather us, these nations is going to, want to try to come against us, right? Because they're going to see, the blessings and stuff and how we're, able to survive, throughout this Armageddon World War III stuff, and they over there living like, World War Z, Book of Eli, right? And that's why, too, what we read earlier, when it says it's going to be a famine of the word, where people is going to be looking for a man of God. People is going to be searching for somebody with the, just picture the Book of Eli. When Denzel came through with that Bible, made everybody go crazy, right? And so it's going to be the same thing. People's going to be looking, but then they're going to see the millions and millions of us in the wilderness. And it says in Revelation 20:8, and shall go out to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is the sand of the sea. So, like I said, so they're going to try to attack the Lord's people, right? And, they're already doing it, in various ways right now, right? And they're going to, but in that day, the armies of the world is going to come against the Lord's people, right? Back over here, then it says, let's get this real quick, too. Get Ezekiel 38. So Ezekiel 38:10, it says, and thus said the Lord God, it shall also come to pass that same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. So, like I said, so now these nations, right, gonna be headed by, the beast, right, in that day. These nations, they're gonna get an idea, and they're gonna be like, hey, let's go down to Israel and let's go attack those black Hispanic people. How they get down there anyway? Let's go and get those guys, right? And it says, thus said the Lord God, it should also come to pass at that time, so things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. Because it's going to be an evil thought, because once we're back in that land, you ought not to know not to mess with us, right? Because we are the baddest army on the planet when we're in that land and we're doing what the Most High God tell us to do. So you might not want to come down there unless you coming for peace, right? Then it says, and thou shalt say, I will go to the land of unwalled villages. I will go to them that are at rest, that dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls, and having neither bars nor gates. Because, in case you not hip to what's going on, they over there bombing everything over there in Israel. Iran is blowing up stuff. Yemen, all them people, they doing stuff, right? So by the time we make it over there, there's not going to be no type of infrastructure over there, right? It's going to be all, so then they're going to be like, well, shoot, we can go and attack them. They don't have no type of, there's no armies, no infrastructure, there's no government, there's no nothing down there that can stop us from going down there. So, hey, let's just go down there, right? But not knowing we got Yahweh Shai on our side. We have the king of the universe on our side, right? That's what they don't understand, right? Jeremiah 17, let's get this real quick. 17 and 18. It says, let them be confounded that pursue me, but let me not be confounded. So that's what Jeremiah is saying, because and that's what's going to happen. These nations are going to be confounded when they try to come up against the Lord's people and think they can, get us with their little weaponries and modern technology. Because understanding what the Bible say, our weapons are not carnal, they're spiritual, right? Our weapons of warfare are spiritual, not carnal. It says, let them come and be confounded that pursue me, but let not me be confounded. Let them be dismayed, but let me not be dismayed. Bring upon them the day of evil, and destroy them with double destruction. So, that's what we pray for. That's what we ask for when they do come up against us, right? That's, what Jeremiah, our dear brother Jeremiah, is praying and asking for the Lord. When they come and attack our people, that they get destroyed double time for coming up against us, right? Let's get this real quick. This is Jeremiah 18 and 17. Because, this happened to our people. And, because we got to understand our history is all through this thing, right? And it says, I will scatter them with an east wind before the enemy. So now if you're familiar with, weather, an east wind come in blowing from the east, and whatever it blows is going to blow it to the west. And what's west of Israel? Africa, right? And what's further west in Africa? The west coast of Africa. And it says, I will scatter them with an east wind before the enemy. I will show them the back and not the face in that day of their calamity. So, because God, lifted his protection over us, he allowed these nations to come and conquer us and take us into these nations, and enslave us. But now he's going to fight for his people because he's done punishing his people, because we are waking up. As you can see, prophecy is being fulfilled, right? Because as the 144,000 get sealed, more biblical events take place that God said is going to happen, right? So that's good. Just keep reading. Then it says, Micah 4 and 12. And it says, But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel. For he shall gather them as sheaves into the floor, right? Because they don't understand how the Most High God, judge and get down. Because, you go to the church, they tell you, God is all love, love, love. He loves everybody. God is love, love, love. So they don't, understand the counsel and, the workings of the Most High God, right? It says, Zechariah 14 and 2, I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people should be cut off from the city. So, then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he brought the day of battle. Right? So God said, after these nations come against Jerusalem, as they coming against them, then God is going to go and fight against these people for everything that they have done to his people. Right? This is in the Bible. So how could God be all love if he's planning on destroying these nations that took his people into slavery? We got to ask these questions. Then shall Yahweh go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in the day upon the Mount Olives, which before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west, and there shall be a very great valley, and of half of the mountain shall shall remove towards the north, and half towards the south. Right? So you can get it in with these people, right? Because he's not to be played with. He's gonna fight for his people, and he's not a God, you know, a softy, you know, how people try to make him to just love everybody. So let's get this real quick. Let's read 13 first. And it says, Arise and thrust, O daughter of Zion. I will make thy horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people. So God is going to give his people the power to go and chastise and destroy these nations, right, for what they have done. It says, Arise and thrust, O daughter of Zion. I will make thy horns iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people. I will concentrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lords of the whole earth. So we're going to beat them and mistreat them, right? After we beat them, they're going to give us everything they got. Why they going to give us everything they got? Because over here, Isaiah 61. 1. And it says, everyone out there, second one, yeah. It says, the spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord hath anointed me to preach good tidings and to the meek, and he shall send me to bind up the brokenhearted, and to proclaim liberty to the captives. So that's what Christ is going to do. He's going to proclaim liberty to the captives. And it says, and open up the prison to them that are bound, and to proclaim acceptable year to the Lord, in the day of our vengeance of our God, to comfort them that mourn, to appoint them that mourn in Zion. So, like I said, it's all for the people, his people, Israel. This book is only about his people, right? And how he's going to redeem them and save them and protect them from these other nations. Because who else needs more protection than the Black Hispanic people, right? We do. Dealing with these people and how we've been living under them for so long, right? We need to be sovereign. And it says, to give unto them beauty for ashes, and oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called the trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. So God is going to reverse all of our heartaches and pains that we've been going through as a people, as a nation, and give us, you know, that true happiness, that true joy, right? That we all, you know, wants to feel, right? And it says, and they shall build up in old wastes, and they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities and desolations of many generations. Right? That's what's going down. Right? So let's jump down to the point. Matter of fact, hold on. Number 5. Matter of fact, it says, and the stranger shall stand and flee your flock. And yes, it says, the stranger shall stand and feed your flock, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen and your vine dressers. So these other nations is going to be our servants, our, you know, workers in the field. Just like how they got our little Hispanic and Latino brothers working in their on their farms and stuff. They're kings and noblemen. They're going to be picking our strawberries, our grapes, and whatnot, fruits and stuff like that, right? That's called justice, in case you don't know. Let's get this real quick. Isaiah 60. And let's start at 61. It says, arise and shine, for the light is come is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. So the Israelites is going to have the glory in that day, the light, right? And many nations is going to want to come, right? And again, not all is going to come because they want to come neither, right? Then it says, let's read this part one more time. I will concentrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth, right? So meaning he's going to have all these nations give us their wealth. They're going to be paying us tribute. So Isaiah, let's jump down to the point. Isaiah 60:10, and the strangers shall build up thy walls. And there, because remember in 61 we read that we will build in desolate places, right? We will rebuild. But we're not going to do the rebuilding. They are. It says, and the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister to thee. So, you know, their powerful nobleman is going to be building and working hard, you know, to build up our nation, just like our powerful and nobleman worked hard to build up this nation, right? So they're going to do, it's called reversal of roles. It says, the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy on thee. So God said, okay, I know because, you know, the times, you know, when I was punishing you, you know, I know how these other nations was getting down on you, but now reversal, right? Then it says, therefore thy gates shall be open continually, right? Because what does it say over here? It says, I will concentrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. Because it says over here, therefore thy gates shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day or night. Why are they going to be open? That men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, meaning their wealth, their money, you know, taxes, tribute, however you want to call it, right? It says, the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. So they're going to bring their noblemen, you know, as slaves, right? As, you know, say, hey, look, we captured this guy. We captured, you know, this government official over here for you. Hey, you know, hopefully you be nice to us, right? You know, don't be too mean to us. We got some more of these government officials that was hiding. We got them, right? So it says, and it says, therefore the gate shall be open continually. They shall not be shut day nor night, that the men shall bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles, and that their kings may be brought. They're going to bring them in servitude. And it says, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee. So if they don't want to get down with the program, because some of these people not going to get down in the program. That's why they're going to be in chains, right? And it says, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee, yeah, those nations should be utterly wasted. So Christ said those nations that don't want to serve will be utterly wasted. So they better get down with the program, because they don't get down with the program, they will be, for surely, utterly wasted. All right, let's get this real quick. And let's get this second address 13 and 40. And it says, and hold on, boom. Hold up, is that the one? Hold up. I bet you it's not too far. Hold on, just find it just like this. Hold Hold up. One second, so like it. Hold on. I don't know why I didn't see it right. Okay, it's 13. Here we go. Should have highlighted it. That's why. So yeah, my bad. Boom. So it's saying. So like I said, so some of these people, they're gonna be in chain, and it says right here. So afterwards, I saw the same man come down from the mountain and called unto him another peaceable multitude. So this is, Christ, and you familiar with this chapter? He handing out crowns to everybody and all that. Or no, yeah. So then it says, and there came much people unto him. So now the multitude is the Israelites that were saved from these different nations and were in the wilderness. So we're coming on to him because he's calling. And it says, and there come much people unto him. Thereof some were glad and some were sorry. Some of them were bound because, again, and what it mean to be bound, to be enchained, to be locked up, right? Because like it just told us over here, it says, the sons of the strangers shall build up thy walls, and the kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor I have mercy on thee. Therefore the gates shall be open continually; they shall not be shut day nor night, that the man shall bring unto you the forces of the Gentiles, and their kings may be brought. For a nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, they should be. Those nations should be utterly wasted, right? So, right here where it says, and the kings shall minister to thee, right? And it says down here, and their kings may be brought, because again it says, and there shall come much people unto him, whereas some were glad, meaning the righteous ones were gonna be glad, like, yay, we made it out of here. And some were sorry because some people didn't do it, they was caught up in that Christianity, caught up in these false religions. And then, so they don't know what the outcome is going to be, in that wilderness. And it says, and some was brought, and some of them were bound. And some of them were brought them that were offered. Then, so then, like I said, so the point is that I wanted to get where it says, and some of them were bound. So these people, some of them are going to be chained up in that day because they're going to be, unruly people that need to be chained, right? Because people think when they see Christ come back and see all this supernatural stuff, everybody is going to get down and lay down. No, people are still going to be people, right? People are still going to be doing what people do, still doing whatever they want to do, right? And thinking that they can, whatever, outsmart God, right? That's the foolishness of us. So, back over here. Oh, let's get this real quick. So just read this one more time. It says, arise. I'll find it over here. It says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion. I will make thy horn iron, and I will make thy hoofs brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will concentrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord, the whole earth. So we just read how these nations is going to have to come and pay tribute taxes to the nation of Israel once Christ's government is set on earth, right? And it says that we're going to beat these nations into pieces, right? It says, arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, right? Because again, we are the baddest army on the planet, right? When we got, everything together, right? Jeremiah 51:20, it says, thou art my battle axe, weapons of war. For with thee I will break in pieces the nations. So again, he's going to use his people to break in pieces the nations, because we're going to be ruling over this place with an iron fist. But it says, with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms, right? That's why I tell us this in Revelation 2:26. It says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. So he's going to give the Israelites power over the nations, because it just said, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war, and with thee I will break in pieces the nations, and with thee I will destroy kingdoms. Right here it says, and he that overcometh and keep my works unto the end, to him I will give power over the nations. He will rule them with an iron rod. As a vessel of a potter shall they be broken to shivers, even as I receive of my Father, right? So we're going to have that power and authority over these nations to chastise and punish these nations at will whenever they, break the laws and go against, the laws of God, right? And it says, thou art my battle axe, weapons of war, right? So we are his battle axe, right? We are his weapons of war. That's why it's important that we come back to our culture, our law, statutes, and commandments, and, and be who the Most High God want us to be, right? This is Zechariah 12:7. Let's start here. Because people don't understand that we are the Most High God's weapons of war. Because you look at us, you see, the state of our people, you think that we're just some worthless bunch of niggers and spicks, right? But nah. The Bible says this, the Lord also shall save the tents of Judah first, in the glory of the house of David, in the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem. So he's going to save his people. He's going to protect his people in that day when all hell is breaking loose. And it says, and do not magnify themselves against Judah. So in that day, there's not going to be no inner tribe beefing 12 tribes and, we're not getting along with each other. Everybody going to look at each other as brothers, right? And then it says, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them. So even the weakest of us, the ones that might be, have little arthritis, you might have some type of little physical health problem, whatever the case may be. It says the feeble, it says, and he that is feeble among them, at that day he shall be as David. And David was a mighty, mighty warrior, right? He was like the Black John Wick, Rambo, right? And it says, very powerful guy. Then it says, should be as David. In the house of David should be as God. So the rest of the people that's, not older, don't have arthritis, whatever, they're going to be as angels. They're going to be as God. They're going to be looking like gods to these nations when we come in against them, when we're fighting against them. They're going to see the miraculous spiritual power that God has bestowed on this nation. And what it says, in that day shall be as David, in the house of David shall be as God, as the angels of the Lord before them. So we're going to be looking like gods on the earth, because we are a nation of kings and priests and gods, once he gives us that spiritual power to take on these nations, right? And so that's what we got to understand. That's why the Bible is describing us as, thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. With these I will break in pieces the nations, and with these I will destroy kingdoms, right? Because in that day the Lord will defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them, In that day, the Lord shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angels of the Lord before them. So he's going to give us that spiritual power to take on these, wicked nations that try to come up against us, right? In that day, right? Because he's going to defend his people, right? And, that's the Lord's plan, right? Although there's going to come a time where it's going to be a famine in the land, right? And things is not going to be looking up. It might be hard. You might, be looking for somebody that that can probably help, and you might not be able to find them. But that's why the Bible says knowledge and wisdom should be our stability in these times, right? And that's going to get us through these things. That's why brotherhood and sisterhood is important in these times, to help each other, right? And although the rest of the world is turning cold, but us as the Lord's people, we have to gather ourselves together, right? And learn how to treat one another, because they don't get better. But these people is out for blood, right? And our blood, to be exact. And we gotta come together, right? And all that cool stuff. But yeah. So yeah, that's what's up. So we gotta understand that, that's the plan. We gotta come back to the cultures, law, statutes, commandments, and understand that we do got a God that fight for us. And because we got a God that fight for us, he's gonna protect us. And all we gotta do is just keep the law, statutes, and commandments, come back to the faith, and everything's cool, and leave all these false religions alone, right? Let's see, so 1 second. Get us some leaving out music. Yeah. So no, but yeah, so yeah. But no, yeah, so that's what it is. We gotta understand how important it is to, how the Bible says, study to show yourself approved, right? And
to use this feature, please make sure your app is running and can access the internet.
And keep the faith, right? And like I said, and gather ourselves together, right? Because it gets rough. So shalom, peace.
Mercy.
We out.
Lord have mercy. Why niggas hate me? Show me no mercy. Brother
Next
forsake
time.
me. Woman them hurt me. Mercy, mercy. Ay, Lord have mercy.
Okay, walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun wide. Walk like a champion, talk like a champion. You don't hear that send me blow. Pump, 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 pump. Put up on your set slow. You don't hear no engine. Put a body on it gun